Okay, so we just read the Grimm's brothers story, Hans the Hedgehog, number 108 in my book. You want to give a summary, then we'll talk about it?
Yeah. The story starts with a peasant in the countryside that has been childless for a while, and the villagers kind of criticize him about it, and he gets to the point that he gets sick of it, so he tells himself that even if he has a hedgehog, he will have a child.
Mm,
And his wife ends up giving birth to a half hedgehog, half human child. Um, and of course, they're surprised and unhappy about it.
mm.
And after the hedgehog child, they call him Hans the Hedgehog, is baptized, he gets put to live behind a stove, and with some straw there.
Mm.
And yeah, he grows up and um, I forgot what age it was, maybe, but eventually he,
I think 8 years old.
yeah, 8 years old. And at that point, his dad goes somewhere and asks people like what he would like uh, him to buy for them.
But
And
just a second, like before that, when he's 8 years old, his father gets tired of him and he says, uh, his father was tired of him and if he would but die, but he did not die and he remained lying there. But then, yeah, there's a fair, and then the father asks people what they want him to bring him back.
yeah, so the wife and the servant, he ask for items, and then Hans asks for a chicken, I think, um,
Yeah, a
and
rooster, a cock.
a rooster, and I think that's the only thing he asked for. Oh no, bagpipes too, actually.
Just the
But
bagpipes. I think later on he asked for the rooster.
oh, okay. Well, yeah, he comes back with the bagpipes, and then he tells his dad that now he needs a rooster, and if he's able to get him that, he'll go away forever.
Yeah.
And his dad is happy about that, so he gets him the rooster. And then Hans goes into like the forest with pigs and donkeys and stuff, and he kind of lives in the forest making music with the bagpipes and flying around with the rooster, um, and growing his flock of animals.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then one day a king gets lost and he hears bagpipes, so he sends his servant to investigate who is making the music. And the servant discovers Hans up on a tree, like, on the rooster. And Hans makes a deal with the king that if he leads him back to his kingdom, he'll be able to get some reward in exchange. And he wants the king's princess to marry.
Well, no,
Um,
he says the first person that comes to greet you, then I will have that person. Something like
okay.
that. Something a little more like uh prophetic, kind of ambiguous.
Hmm. Yeah, well, when the king makes it back, he makes it it's the princess that greets him. But the king invalidates the deal. Like he kind of rewrites the deal to where he says that it's Hans does not want those things, even though that wasn't the case.
Yeah. And
Uh,
he specifically says Hans cannot read and write, he thinks.
mhm,
And that's why he's gonna write this contract like the opposite of what he had agreed to verbally
yeah.
or orally.
And then the princess is kind of happy about him uh doing that and says she doesn't want to be with a hedgehog anyways. So yeah.
Such high standards.
Yeah, so he yeah, so Hans yeah, kind of goes back, is still in the forest, and he finds another lost king, and this king also wants his help getting back to his kingdom, and they make a promise, and um the king agrees to it, and his daughter, the princess, also greets him. As the first person to greet him when he's back. But he tells his daughter that like he had agreed to give her away from to Hans, and the daughter is accepting of that, and um yeah, and they actually like honor the deal compared to the previous king. Um, so yeah, the princess meets Hans and has dinner with him, and uh, I think they get married.
Well, remember, first Hans goes to, I think he goes to meet his father, right?
Mhm.
And he's kind of like the prodigal son returning, except in the prodigal son story, the son just returns with himself, and the
Mhm.
king and the father greets him warmly. But in this story, he return Hans returns with this huge flock, and in fact, he tells like the father to tell everybody to empty all the sties because he has so many pigs and donkeys, and and he's super successful. But then the father goes, he was not pleased because he had thought Hans had died long ago.
Mhm.
And then, but anyway, he comes back, and again, there's the cockshod kind of thing. We didn't mention that the first time, but he again says, like, okay, father, like, just go to the forge and get like a horseshoe, I guess, and get the cockshod, get the rooster, have little rooster shoes or whatever put on it, and then I'll leave. And he does. And then he goes, remember, do you want to tell about how he goes to the first dishonest king, the king without integrity?
Oh yeah, so yeah, he goes with his clock and everything, and the king kind of puts a bounty for him to be killed if he even goes near the palace.
Yeah, the
Um,
story says like he instructs everybody to stab him.
yeah, so he flies with the rooster up to like a window and
Yeah,
threatens the king, and tells him that if he doesn't give his daughter, he'll kill them both.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, the king finally makes the daughter marry him and go away with him. Um, but yeah, on along the way, like Hans makes the daughter like take her clothes off, and he pricks her with his spines and kind of sends her back humiliated to the kingdom.
yeah, and
Uh,
and she'll be forever humiliated or something like
mhm,
that. It like brands her for life. But
mhm,
also, it's interesting that the king had provided them with like 6 horses and servants and this beautiful carriage and everything. And then Hans had sat next to her with his 2 trusty companions, right? The things that are always around him, which are sort of like magical kinds of symbols, which is the bagpipes and the cock. But yeah,
that's and so after that he meets the second king and helps him go back to his kingdom when he's lost. And this king and the princess, they keep um their promise to for her to marry him, like in exchange for Hans having led the king back home. Uh, and he and Hans instructs the king to have some of his servants stand outside their door on their wedding night and start a huge fire. And when they're going to go to sleep, Hans takes off um his hedgehog spines and instructs the servants to put throw the spines to the fire.
They have to,
Uh,
there's some care they have to do that with too. They have to like grab it, they have to like sneak up on it or something like that. It's as if it it's a delicate process. Like it's not easy to keep the hedgehog part of himself off of himself.
mhm. Yeah, once it gets destroyed by the fire, Hans is black with like soot or something from the fire. So the king sends doctors and they wash him and put special salves and ointments on him. And once he's cleaned off, he's revealed to be a full human person again.
For the first time.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then after that, yeah, and then he's anointed and and then after that they have like a proper marriage ceremony, which
Mhm.
is almost kind of interesting. Like he almost like sleeps with the bride before the proper marriage, but but this yeah seems to have to do with his identity. And there's a parallel here with him being him not being fully accepted before during the christening, like when he was young. Do you remember the rest of it?
No.
That's almost all of it. But then so then he goes back to his father and he gets him to come and live in with him in the kingdom. Doesn't mention the mother. Uh, and also finally the father rejoices and says, you know, I have well, so when he goes back to the father, like the father says, uh, I've had only one son, but he died long ago, or, you know, he's half hedgehog or something like that. You know, he's gone. But then the son says, no, 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 it's me. Like this is me in my real form or my acceptable form. And then finally the father rejoices and went with him to his kingdom.